Vijay Jaraj, who is joining us there. He is being part of this overall discussion, aren't you, Vijay, about what is being talked about here in Glasgow, Research Associate for Developing Countries at the Cornwall Alliance. What did you make of what you've seen here in Glasgow over the last 2 or 3 days from where you are?
Yeah, well, the Chancellor announced that he's pledging money, and he pointed out that while Paris was a promise, today in Glasgow is an action where they are actually putting that on paper. But leaders in India, the Prime Minister and the ministers have been telling the COP and the Paris Agreement that the pledged money has not arrived and there's been only talks. So even today's promises, we'd have to wait and see whether they are actually following up that promises with actual funding. But having said that, I would like to remind some of the viewers that though India is installing a huge amount of renewables and they are getting funded from the COP for that, they are also simultaneously increasing their fossil fuel dependency. And for instance, the very day when India's Prime Minister pledged net zero by 2070, the very day back in India, the coal minister pledged that the coal ministry would increase the coal production up to 1 billion tons 2024 from the current 700 million tons. So the reality of energy needs over here in India is quite different. And my analysis is that both India and China, they are playing a twin strategy where they install more and more renewables, but at the same time they are doing a fossil fuel increase.
In saying that, Vijay, lots of people here were quite harsh or sceptical about Narendra Modi's announcement on Monday that India would only become carbon neutral by 2070. But actually, and I think India contributes 7% of global emissions when it comes to greenhouse gases. China's way out in front on that. But when it comes down to a proportion by population, what the average Indian contributes compared to the average British person, we're still way ahead.
Yeah, you're right, because the global average is around 4.5 tons per person, and India's is less than half of the global average, and the UK is slightly above the global average, and if you look at the US, they are way above, and likewise with China. So the argument from India is that the per capita emission is way below the global average, and it would be immoral and unethical for Western countries to pressurize the same kind of pressure that we heard from some of the speakers today about pressurizing financial companies and pressurizing governments and leaders to act upon climate. But in a country like India, when you disrupt the fossil fuel the fossil fuel chain, you will end up in widespread chaos. And we saw that in India last month when our coal inventories went short. A lot of states had blackouts and a few announced load shedding as well. So the reality here is not just an increase in. Yeah.
Sorry, Vijay. Sorry to cut across you there. I was just going to say, just finally on this, we do focus an awful lot on actually the contribution to greenhouse gases and the overall effect on global warming. But another big issue that is clearly linked to the emissions from factories and cars and electricity and coal and all that sort of stuff is pollution, which is a major issue in big Indian cities like Bangalore, like in Delhi and elsewhere. How much is public opinion, I'm trying to say, how much is public opinion playing into the national narrative in India when it comes to tackling climate change pollution?
Yeah, I mean, India is one of the most polluted countries. In our northern belt, there are a couple of cities which consistently rank among the top 5 in the world for pollution. But pollution from the coal plants and the vehicles are not the only reasons. So one of the main reasons for India being high on the pollution ranking is stubble burning by agriculturists during a certain months of the year. So what happens is that, along with the topography of the northern plains, causes a huge pollution levels among a lot of cities in the north. So to answer your question, when it comes to public consensus, I think the media controls the narrative all over the globe, and it's the same over here in India. and they shamelessly blame the coal plants and the vehicles for that, whereas it's a mix of various reasons. And moreover, India has demanded that all of its coal plants install filters to reduce the emittance from the plants. So that will be in place, and by 2024, all our coal plants will have filters.
Okay, Vijay, thank you very much indeed for joining us there from Bangalore. That's Vijay Jararaj, who is